All right, welcome to this week's episode of Mindset Monday, and I am moving to my second hotel today, so excuse the mess in the background. I am looking forward to moving into the villa started January. It's going to be nice to actually have a desk and be back to a proper working space, but I still didn't want to miss out on bringing this episode to you guys because it's a big one, and it's a big one I think that's very prevalent for the time of year that we're at, where you can sit and take perspective, you can look back on what the year has been, and you can also look forward to things that you want to create moving forward. But in order to do that, sometimes you got to gain insights into what isn't working, and sometimes that means we have to sit in the truth of how did we abandon ourselves this year, and why you keep abandoning yourself when it comes to the things that are important to you, when it comes to taking action in order to achieve what you want, for owning the responsibility of why you haven't achieved what you want. And it's something that I've actually been talking about a lot recently, and I thought it would be really powerful to dive into it for you all today so you can gain some more awareness around why you keep going down this same pattern and why you're not making a different choice when it comes to choosing you versus abandoning you. All right, so let's dive in. I think the biggest thing that comes up for most people when they're trying to create change is fear, right? It's fear of the unknown. It's fear of, what if I fail? It's fear of loss. If I'm going to invest in this and then suddenly I don't do it, then I'm going to lose everything. And I even remember having a conversation with a lady last week, like, I really need this. I'm so sick and tired of where I am, everything else. But what if I invest in this and then I do nothing? Do I get a refund? And I'm like, are you listening to what you're saying? Yeah, but what happens if I just do nothing? And I'm like, then don't do the program, was my response. Like, don't do it. If you're going to make a commitment to then not do anything, then you don't want to create change anyway. Oh, but I'm just trying to work out what my options are. I'm like, no, you're not. You're just scared of not following through on what you want, of not taking action on the things that you say you want to take action on in order to create the end result. Because fear, doubt, uncertainty, insecurity around our lack of belief to stick to something. And you got to understand that insecurity has come because it hasn't been built. It hasn't been developed. It hasn't been harnessed by practicing that, by doing things over and over again that cause you to change, that force you in some ways to either adapt or die. I either have to progress or regress because I've obviously not ready to go past that point. And even that's an interesting conversation in its own, like, not ready. At the end of the day, none of us are ready. But if you embrace the unknown, change and growth is on the other side. And that's where things get exciting. And again, this is all about making sure you don't abandon yourself, right? And to identify why you have been. And if fear pops up for you, run forward into it. And I think I did a whole episode on this, I think 2 weeks ago, where it was a new acronym for fear that I heard. It was like finally exiting average reality. I love that because it's like, cool, I'm leaving that shit behind me because I'm going here. Even if it feels uncomfortable and unknown and a little bit, scary, that's where I'm going. This is a big one. And I've been doing this for 24 years. And I've been doing it in so many different capacities, but this shows up everywhere and it shows up daily, right? It's the fact that you're giving your power away. As a mother, you give your power away. As a partner, sometimes you give your power away. As a human being, often you give your power away because it's easier to do that than sit within to work out what you need to do to change. And what I mean by giving your power away, I give my time, energy, and focus away to others. Because ultimately, that's where your power comes from, because you have a limited amount of it. I only have so much time, I only have so much focus to put into that time and the energy it requires, right? It's like your battery power, right? I've only got so much of it, and if I keep giving it to everybody else, what's left for me, right? Nothing, right? And you're wondering why you don't feel like the Energizer Bunny and you're always exhausted and tired and overwhelmed and everything else. Cool, you just literally let everybody else drain your battery. You plugged it into everybody else so that you're left with nothing. And yet we don't often sit in the responsibility of that, going, well, I chose that. Do other people have needs that you like to meet? Sure. but who's meeting your needs? Who's plugging their battery into you? Who's, giving you the space to plug your own battery in and just sit within what you need, right? No one's going to come and do that for you. You might be very lucky where you have a partner that supports that for you and, pushes you to do that for yourself. But ultimately, it's going to come down to you doing it for you, regardless of how supportive somebody is. Because sometimes they don't even know what you need, but you're not communicating it, you're not choosing it, you're just giving it away. And then you wonder why you feel like nobody knows what you want. Nobody understands you, nobody sees you, nobody understands my pain. Well, it's because you literally gave everything to everybody else. You had nothing left, which therefore you're not even letting people know what you want. You're not claiming what it is that you want because you've already given everything else away. If I can do anything, it's the biggest thing that I try and give our women in our program is that ability to just consistently choose themselves, to consistently plug into what they need to, that's going to allow them to have the power that they need to handle everything. Because my demographic is busy. They've got a lot going on. They've got a million things flying at them all the time, and some of it is out of their control. And if you don't have the power to deal with those things at the level that you need to, of course shit feels hard. Of course it feels overwhelming. Of course you're frustrated and exhausted because you've got nothing to cope with what it is that you need to cope with day in and day out. All right? Think about that one. You run from commitment. Right? Like some of you might be married, you're committed to being a great parent, but you run from the commitment of doing you, of showing up consistently for you, which is interesting because we can give a level of commitment to other things, to your work, to, the parent-teacher board, to all the kids, to sometimes as an entrepreneur, to everybody else that you serve and you help. Yet, when it comes to committing to ourselves and staying true and staying in what it is that we want long enough for us to then have it, requires a different level of commitment that most people, one, don't look at, and two, aren't willing to stay in for long enough. And I've gone through it in my own life multiple times in different ways, in business, in relationships, in being a single dad. I felt it where suddenly you're sitting there and you're like, do you know what? Like I've literally haven't done or I haven't stayed committed to what it is that I wanted because I abandoned myself. I gave everything else away, that I didn't even stick to the commitments that I made to myself. Right? And if you want to know where frustration comes from promises you make to yourself that you don't keep. That's literally where that emotion comes from. Right? And if I can't stay committed to what I want long term and I keep going back through this cycle because I self-abandon, we already know what that emotion is going to lead to. All right? This one's big, and it's in line with what I was saying about giving you power, that it's so much easier to hide behind this shield of being the savior, of being the provider, of being the doer for everybody else. Because it's not ugly. People don't judge it. People look at that and go, what a great mother, what a great partner, what a great employee, what a great leader, what a great business owner. And I'm wearing this shield of I'm serving everybody else. I'm doing this. I'm fulfilling my duties as a mom and a partner and a parent and a human. And we stay behind these almost like it's like a shield of honor that we try and carry around. But yet what you don't actually realize is that it's where you've been hiding. And it's hard because for a lot of you, that's where you've had your greatest level of recognition. That's where a lot of you get your greatest sense of fulfillment. Because other people are thanking you, they're recognizing you, they're showing gratitude, hopefully, they're appreciating everything that you do. So then it fuels you because it feels good. It's a feel-good outcome. So let me do more of it and more of it. And then the shield keeps growing. But yet the entire time you're a sinking violet hiding behind it. Like you're growing smaller and smaller and smaller while the shield is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But you're wondering why you don't have what you want. Why don't I feel how I want to feel? Why don't I have the things that I want to have? Why am I in this situation, right? And you ask those questions, which aren't quality questions. Those are like, how do I stay stuck questions versus what do I need to do for me? What do I need to do right now to change how I'm feeling? What do I need to do right now to have what I want, to bring to life what I want to create, regardless of anybody else, because it has nothing to do with them, right? And I know that sits a different way for a few of you, but when you can own that and you can sit in that space, it doesn't mean I have any less love and care for everybody else that is important in my life, that I used to gain fulfillment from, being their savior and doing everything for them. It doesn't mean that at all. It just means that you're coming from a place of looking after you first, rather than a place of abandonment and lack, because everything else is gone already. It's been given away. This one, I think, it's a lot of you will say it subliminally. You don't know it exists in your subconscious, but your behavior and your patterns dictate this, and the result will highlight that for you. It's that if I don't try, I can't fail. So if I don't try to change this outcome, if I don't try and put the shield down because I don't need it, it's not serving me, right? If I don't give my power away, right? Then I've got to face the fact that at the end of the day, I'm either going to have what I want or I don't. I'm going to have to live and die by my actions. Whereas if I don't try and I hide behind the shield and I hide behind the stories and I hide behind all the things that I think give me what I want, then I can't fail. Then I can't feel a sense of, I let myself down, or I don't have to face the raw truth of what I did created this result. Because I'll just let everything else dictate the results that I'm currently accepting, because it's easier to create stories around it, and it's not as painful as taking responsibility for why I don't have what I want. Think about that, all right? Because for me, when you can own things at that level, right, it changes everything for you, because you choose the other things that you want to bring into your life rather than accepting them. And when that's the case, you're now in the driver's seat. You're now bringing to life the things that are important to you, rather than accepting and wilting away with the things that you think you don't have a choice about. All right. Last thing here, I've talked about it all the way through this entire episode, is just the lack of responsibility for owning the results that you have. Right? And like I said, you can sugarcoat it. You can add all of these nice feel-good things that you do for everybody else, and the honor of giving your power away to everybody else, because that's my role in life. And for a lot of women, even culturally, that's been huge. Like, this is what I do. And for a lot of guys, even, they're like, I'm the provider. This is what I do. And I know that dynamic has shifted a lot, but those cultural instincts are still ingrained within us. Those behaviors still tend to pop up over and over again, because we all attach a level of significance to different things based on that culture. So let's simplify things to wrap everything up today, that if you're not happy, if you don't have what you want, just literally sit down and ask yourself, like, where did I self-abandon? Where am I responsible in this entire scenario for not owning what I needed to own in order to create what I wanted, in order to then do the actions that I needed to do long enough to create the result? You can do that, right? People fear taking responsibility because they think it's admitting defeat, or that it's a sign of weakness. And you couldn't be any fucking further from the truth. There's such a level of power in self-responsibility, in claiming the raw, honest truth that comes from looking and measuring your results. And I'm not measuring results around anybody else. I don't care about anybody else. I'm measuring them based on what I want. Where is my level of self, respect and self-responsibility for going after what I want? And if it's not there, then you just realize that I've abandoned myself. And if you have, cool, no problem. Now claim you. Now claim you by starting with responsibility. Where am I responsible for where I am right now? Because it's not about blame, it's not about shame, it's not about guilt. It's about owning where I'm at so that I now can own what I want moving forward. And if you need help with that, okay, like always, reach out to me, because sometimes we don't see what we don't see, and we don't know what we don't know, all right? And it's something that I'm very passionate about when it comes to helping people through this process, because you wonder why nothing's working for you. You wonder why you end up in the same patterns, keep getting the same outcomes. it's not because the food plan got tricky and you got bored of chicken and broccoli, which look, it's easy to do. It's because of this stuff. It's because of your lack of responsibility for claiming you and the ease in which you self-abandon. And if you can flip those things around and taking responsibility becomes easy and you're not willing to self-abandon because you are too important to you, it's a different game, and it's a fun game to play because, again, it's in line with what you want. Everything at the moment is not in line with what you want. It's why you're unhappy. So use it as a driver. And again, if I can help, reach out to me, send me an email. And if you think somebody would benefit from this episode, please share it with them. And I look forward to connecting with you guys next week.